Okay, because we have enough students, and so I'll just give a brief introduction. So thanks all for coming. Thank you for joining us for our first guest lecture for Ideas to Innovation and Advanced Engineering Innovation class. We announced that we'll have a series of guest lecture where you can learn a lot from our guest speakers and implement their advice or any kind of their approach to your project. Today with us, Igor Stjepanovic. As I announced, Igor is entrepreneur, is managing 3 startups in Brisbane. He finished computer science or IT at the Queensland University of Technology. He has vast experience in managing of the projects, like similar that you are doing, finding a good challenge and creating some really impressive story. So thank you, Igor, for accepting my request to give a live presentation to Trobe University students. It's my honor to be your host, and I'm hoping that all students will enjoy your presentation. Your screen is here, and I'll just allow you to give your presentation. At the end, we will have Q&A, and I'll ask all students to just write your question while Igor is presenting and not interrupting, and mute your microphones. And at the end, you can ask questions straight to the Igor. Just raise your hand or I'll read your questions. Thank you, Igor, and floor is yours.
Morning. Thanks, Rick. I'll just make sure that my technology is serving me well. So hopefully everyone can see my presentation. I won't ask for show of hands because we have 100 and odd people on the call, but basically, yeah, well, let's get started. Well, folks, thanks for having me here. I was really honored to actually be invited to deliver this presentation on engineering career perspectives and entrepreneurship in general. So I guess what I'm really keen to discuss and present today are various career paths that are available to engineering graduates in general. And I'll, despite the fact that my background is in computer science and data communications, I hope that some of my learnings and experience can be applied in your careers as well. So, well, without further ado, let's get started. Just to start off with a quote here, one of my favorite is, the most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of all true art and science. So this, in my view, really sums up what the entrepreneurship is all about. It is actually one of those mysterious sciences. And it's very exciting. It's very mysterious, but it's also very hard and can be very painful. So it's a source of a lot of happiness, but also at times some sadness. So depending how it goes. Well, in my case, and I'll move on, just to introduce myself. I come from a little tiny country called Bosnia and Herzegovina in Europe. I grew up there. I really enjoyed playing soccer, football. And that was my plan when I was little, to be a soccer player. But then the war broke out in my home country and I left. I ended up studying in a foreign country to me. And my first job was food packing, what everyone knows Aldi these days, but back 20 plus years ago, nobody in Australia knew what it is. And then as I was growing up, I really enjoyed architecture and I really wanted to be an architect, but my career went in a different direction. And so I completed a computer science and data communications degree, worked in the industry for about 12 years and then ended up starting my own business, my first business when I was approximately 35 years old. So that's, I guess, a very quick summary about myself. A couple of highlights include, well, at least one I'll mention, that I attended what's known World Entrepreneurship Summit in San Francisco in 2016, I believe it was, so a few years ago now. But that event was an amazing event in that I really didn't know much about it when I applied. I was sent a link by someone, and they suggested I should complete it and submit my own entry. And when I looked at that link, that event was actually hosted by the then President Obama in the US, and it was his last event before finishing up his presidency. And that event, the World Entrepreneurship Summit, which is held every year, but usually in different countries, he wanted to host it in the heart of Silicon Valley. And in that email said that the founders of Facebook, Twitter, Uber, and many Airbnb, various other companies will be at that event. And I thought to myself, oh, what chance do I really have of being selected to attend? I mean, they were only selecting 10 people from Australia and, certain numbers from each of the different countries. But anyway, I sort of must have submitted a really good entry, and I was selected, and I attended that incredible event, and which to this date I obviously have very, very fond memories of. So that's just one of the examples of what can happen, when you have a positive attitude, and when you're faced with with low chances of winning, and you still go ahead with a positive attitude, sometimes you can win. So that's very important, I guess, in entrepreneurship, and you always have to look at the glass half full rather than half empty. All right, so how did I start with businesses? My first business started in 2010. It's called GIS People. That business is about geographic information systems, or in short, maps. So for those of you who are familiar with products such as Esri or AutoCAD or similar tools, so that business, GIS People, is all about helping clients navigate the location intelligence, locations of their assets, conditions, and so on. That business is a professional services type of business, which means clients engage us to work on different projects. And then we put a team of people together and deliver the project. So that started in 2010. Out of that business, we created 2 software products. First one we created is called Grantify, and that's our main, I guess, focus and main business today. Grantify started out as an idea, as a pitch at an open innovation challenge at a local university, actually, Queensland University of Technology, where various executives from across the Queensland government posted various challenges and problem statements, and then we responded with this one because the problem was about solving the issues of graffiti and vandalism across the city of Brisbane. And then that was expanded across the state of Queensland. But so the problem was that they couldn't really manage that process well from end to end. They could do bits and pieces, but they didn't have a turnkey, fully integrated solution. And we responded with an idea, and we won that challenge. And out of that became what's today is known as Grantify. And my final business, which I'll only mention briefly, is called Open Declare. And that business deals with a real-time disclosure of donations to politicians and political parties in Australia. As you may or may not be aware, as part of the elections, all donations are by law. It's mandated that they are declared and disclosed publicly. So, for example, if a company donates $100,000 to a Labor Party or a Liberal Party or Greens Party or whatever, they must declare that, and that record then becomes public. There are some nuances and intricacies involved, and the workflows are very specific, but suffice to say, we built a software solution that deals with all of that, and then we kept the IP, and then we licensed it back to our clients as a software package. So those are the 3 businesses that I started to date. They keep me obviously very busy, but yes, so that's what I'm busy every day with. Now, let's talk about some myths. And when I started my first business, I had certain ideas and opinions on how things will go. But now, some 14 years later, I can quite happily share that one of these, fail often, fail fast, for example, doesn't work for me. And I know that a lot of people will tell you, if you try a lot of ideas and see what works and what doesn't. In my view, that may be okay for some people who are that's how they naturally operate. For me, I prefer to spend a bit of time to actually investigate what may succeed, what may work, and then commit to it in terms of time, effort, money, rather than just be trying lots of things and see what will stick. I believe that failing often and failing fast can be very emotionally taxing, and many people may give up entrepreneurship altogether, because if they continuously try ideas that continue to fail, you might appreciate that may be very difficult to handle. However, you also need to learn how to balance risks versus benefits. Generally speaking, a perfectly safe business doesn't exist. So if you're starting a business and you think, well, I know that my business will work 100% and I'm going to make a lot of money out of it, and I'm going to sell it and exit in 2 years' time at many, many millions of dollars, that generally speaking doesn't happen, doesn't exist. So you need to understand that there's always a degree of risk and some benefits in your business. So you need to really balance the two. And as I mentioned before, having a degree of resilience is really critical. I mean, you will experience some highs, but a lot of lows. And so being able to deal with those two extremes is very important. Next up, I think I touched on this a bit earlier, overnight successes. So you may hear in the news that, this business just closed around, they raised $100 million or exited at massive amount of dollars. Success, in my view, takes many years, often sometimes even decades, but certainly many years before you are even noticed or taken seriously by many people. So you need to really understand that if you're starting a business, there's going to be a lot of work involved, and a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of commitment, dedication, perseverance is definitely needed. As I mentioned on the previous slide, risk-taking is involved. So, you may need to commit your own money or other resources. And yes, you never know 100% for sure whether your business will be successful or not. Setbacks and failures certainly are part of it. They not, I think I'm saying here may happen. It's almost guaranteed that they will happen along the way, because you don't have that linear sort of growth in business. Usually you have more of a heartbeat type of scenario. So yeah, you just need to be mindful of that. Again, all I can say is that quote of overnight success is a myth. Yes, it is a myth, and that's important to remember. And the final one, I believe, in the series is that you may need a lot of resources, a lot of money, big team, great office, all these kind of resources to succeed. Now, I didn't have any of that when I started any of my businesses, and so I can say that certainly none of that is a mandatory requirement. Certainly, if you do have some of that, it may help you, but it's still not a guarantee that you will be running a successful business at the end of the day. Certainly, what I have experienced is that when you're first starting, a smaller team is a big advantage, because you can, your ideation, your communication, your teamwork is a lot better. It's a lot easier to do compared to a larger team with hierarchy of, several layers of management and whatnot. So therefore, I think having a small team early on, team that's very committed, is actually an advantage, and not a disadvantage. And again, you get a greater focus and greater grip on your product or service that you're developing, depending on what your business is, and certainly your quality at the end of the day is greater. As you start scaling, clearly things change, but initially, to start out, you definitely need a lot of money, big team, or a lot of resources. Now, you might be thinking, well, okay, what do I do when I first start? Do I need to raise capital right from the outset, or not? Well, there are pros and cons. I'm not going to say that there is a right way or wrong way here, but realistically speaking, when you are starting, and if you have a product or idea, depending on the where you're at with your startup, you may be able, obviously, to scale faster and increase your reach and acquire more customers when you have more resources. That's just a logical thing, I guess, to say. But equally, you can buy or acquire, I guess, more resources and have a bigger team, and you can attract and retain the team, and you can offer your team, I guess, from a financial perspective, more security to hang around and all of those things. So that's all fantastic when you can raise the capital. It gives you that certainty, but usually what that comes, the cost of that is usually that you give up control. So so in the case against, I guess, when you sell part of the company, you raise capital, you literally give up part of the control of your company. And, when you raise subsequent rounds, you give up more and more control of your businesses. And that's perfectly fine in a lot of cases. I mean, that's just the natural, I guess, life cycle of the company, but it's something to be mindful of. If you want to avoid dilution and keep strong ownership and be able to control your product, your service, your business, then you need to find ways on how to basically not raise a lot of capital early on in particular. And this slide is my favorite slide in the entire presentation. I think if you are going to take away one thing today from my presentation, this is it. So how do you spot a business opportunity that has higher likelihood of success than or compared to those that will be less successful? In my experience, and with 3 businesses that I've started so far, you need to look for 3 things. You need to look for the gap in the market. You need to look at your capacity to realistically deliver on that. And you also need to consider the timing of this business opportunity. So the winner is at the intersection of those 3. So when you have those 3 factors come together and you tick all 3 boxes, that is fantastic. If you only have 2, you may still succeed, but it's a lot less likely. As an example, if you find a gap in the market and you have capacity to deliver, but you are too early, your customers don't understand what you want to deliver, or you need to educate them, that's already a hard work, because when you have this product and service and you have capacity to deliver, but it's not needed, or people don't understand what it is, so you then have a problem selling it. If you have good timing, and for example, and you have capacity to deliver, but there is no gap in the market, the market is saturated with million other services or products, then again, you are potentially just wasting your time. So think of this as a way of checking this slide of whether or not your idea really will have a decent chance of success. Highly recommended you study it a bit more. I've mentioned about I guess, my businesses in previous slides, but I'll just run through it again in a little bit more detail so that I guess it becomes clear what they are. GIS People, a professional services company, and there's the website, gispeople.com.au, started in 2010. My initial objectives with this business were to fill the gap of providing professional geospatial services to the mining sector in the state of Queensland. That was the initial, I guess, objective of the business. But whilst we started, with one service to one customer and in one geography, we have expanded our business over the years to provide a lot more services and to a lot more clients and internationally. So I guess the good thing was that we had that focus early on. We really knew who our customer was and what we wanted to provide to those customers. But then we realized over the years that we needed to scale and expand our services, not just to Queensland, but also to other states in Australia and internationally. This is the picture of our team. From one of our recent events at the end of the year. So the guy over on the left, the rest is our team that work on various projects. The next one is Grantify. I explained that that company emerged out of GIS People. So GIS People actually funded the initial development of the software called Grantify in 2015, which again emerged out of a competitive innovation challenge. I started as an idea, but then went from just being an idea into our initial product in some 6 months. So that was really critical to I guess prove that we could build the product quickly and demonstrate its capability. But as you will be aware, the software changes all the time, and Apple of today is very different or iOS, how it was 5, 6, 7 years ago. There's no difference with any other software package. So 7 years on, Grantify is still evolving and growing and including more capabilities and becoming more user-friendly and doing all those wonderful things. So good software is never finished. And I have this phrase that like good wine, the software gets better with the time. And this is a picture of some of our people in the city of San Jose and assisting their fire department with our workflow engine, Grantify. Here's another one with myself and another person. We picked up an award at the Global Assistance Alliance conference. And last, and I guess I won't spend too much time on Open Declare because this one was, I guess created primarily as a government idea, which is kind of interesting. So the government came to us and they said, well, we have this challenge. We need to be able to do these things. We've tried with some other software companies. They told us that they couldn't help us. We are desperate. Can you help us? And we did. And so that's how this business actually started. It was an idea. We agreed that we will build the software and license it back to them, but we will keep the IP. And so out of that, we then licensed the same software to another state. And within those 2 states, there are 150 local councils. And so they all use this software. So it's interesting. I guess what's special about this is that this business and this software package wasn't even our idea, but we now own it and we have lots of users using it. You may not be aware, but there are countless articles written about it, in various media outlets. So from ABC News to, Canberra Times to Brisbane Times and various others. And usually they don't mention us or our software, but they certainly mention the system and the technology that's being used. Now, what I would like to, I guess, do next is share some tips how to be sort of in the top, I don't know, 5%, I said, but yeah, 5 to 10% of the businesses. So certainly be positioned at the higher end of the spectrum. So with your business, you always need to start with the why. So why is this business needed? Why is this solution needed? Why is this product needed? When you can answer that very clearly, you look at those three areas that I mentioned in the previous slides, and then you will hopefully have a reasonable idea if your business is needed, if it's going to change someone's life, make some company more efficient, save someone money, or at the end of the day save the world. So you'll form that opinion based on the why and the other factors. Very important. Without the why, if you can't answer why is this business needed, or why your service, why is it needed, the chances are that you'll fail, because likely someone else has already done it, or done it really well, or created a product, or filled a service. So you really need to know why you want to go into the business in the first place. And this second tip is really, I guess, from my perspective, I did not raise any capital. However, with my businesses, what I've done is I've found early customers, and then I built the service or the product for them on the basis that or that my companies retain the IP. And so we basically get a lot of benefits out of that, because we can progress very quickly. So we can validate ideas with our customers or products or services. We retain full control of that product or service. We offer to the customer a little bit of a discount. We tell them, well, because you are our first customer, we'll offer you a discount, but we make sure that we do get paid. Because when you do get paid, you end up on their accounting system, and the customers, generally speaking, value the services that they pay for more than those that they don't pay for. And we actually do allow customers to own their data and their processes and all those things that they commit to the project, but we own the IP of the system and the technology, and that's worked really well for us today. Next one, make sure you build the best team you can build. Again, if you're one man band, it's hard. You can't do everything yourself. It's really impossible. So you will need people to join you along the way, and the better people you can afford or bring into the business, the better. I generally speaking look at who is more experienced, or who has done things that I haven't, and who has greater technical skills or whatever, and I try to incentivize them somehow to join me. But you don't need necessarily hundreds of people. You may be successful in one day. You may have a large team and lots of resources. You really need a small team, 3 or 4, 5 people. That will be probably enough for a start. Everyone is going to do multiple jobs, so you can't have one person doing just one job. You will have 2 or 3 jobs each, but that's the fun of it. I mean, that is the exciting part of the startup. It's really setting it up, positioning it correctly in the market, working with your customers, validating your ideas, iterating, refining, and once you achieve what they call product market fit, at that point you can start scaling your team, because generally speaking you will be acquiring more customers, there will be more revenue, so you can actually afford to hire more people, and then you might be able to have one person doing one job. What's important as well is that right from the outset there is a very clear vision and on the objective of the business, how it's going to run, who is responsible for what, That has to be communicated very clearly. And last, I guess, last thing here on this slide is that, and I would encourage you to do this right from the outset, is that you build repeatable and documented processes so that you have standard ways of dealing with certain things, whether it's building software or dealing with, I guess, HR or dealing with your customers, supporting your customers. All of those things need repeatable and documented processes. Next one, you are studying now, you I guess appreciate the importance of education, and that never really stops. When you finish your degrees and you end up in the market, you start looking for jobs and you get your first job, and that's not the end of learning. In quite the opposite, actually. So what I recommend to everyone, especially early on, is to really invest a lot of time and effort in keeping up to date with the latest developments in your industry or your areas of interest. You need to attend networking events, conferences, workshops, training courses all the time. Get involved. A lot of it is free, or very affordable and cheap. So you don't need a lot of money to really do those, but they are important because you can then grow your network and a network of connections. With your network of connections, other opportunities open up and so on. So very important that you continue to invest in yourself. And this last item here is that you need to continue to be curious and ask why and how, because that is when best ideas emerge. And if you study some of the businesses that have emerged, like from, let's say, Facebook, Uber, Airbnb, the founders will always tell you that they continue to ask themselves, why do I need this and how do I make it happen? So you need to constantly be doing that. Finally, great businesses are fantastic. Building great software. Pardon me. Building great software is fun. You're working with the latest technology is fun. Having all the skills to be a consultant is fantastic. But at the end of the day, the businesses are all about the customers. So, every day you need to remember, who are you building your software or a service for, and never think of yourself as if I build, I'm so great, and if I build this great piece of technology, everyone's going to come to me because I'm so special. That is a mistake that a lot of people make, and I haven't made that mistake, but I have seen many other people do it. The other thing is, when you market yourself, my advice is that you need to try to tell your stories through your customers' lenses and make your customers be a hero, not yourself. At the end of the day, it's all about them. And if your customers are willing to, say a lot of positives about you and your product, your service, that is the best way of marketing you can actually ever have. Much better than paid marketing about, yourself and how wonderful your software is, your services, and so on. So keep that in mind. Talk to your customers, take their feedback, listen to them. Sometimes it's pleasant, sometimes it's not. But whether it's positive or not, and in particular, if it's not, you need to do something about it. So if the customer tells you your system is slow, you need to try to make it faster, for example. Or if they tell you, we have to do 3 clicks to achieve this outcome. Well, what they're telling you, that's too many clicks. Then you need to see if you can shorten that one and achieve the same outcome in 2 or single click. So those are the kind of things that you need to pay attention to and really listen closely to what they say. Now, in terms of scaling, a lot of the businesses are built with a single customer in mind, and you start off developing your business around a single customer. That is okay initially, but it becomes a risk eventually, because what that means is that you have a single customer, and what happens then if you lose that one customer? Then suddenly you have no business to run. So my advice is that, yes, start off with one customer, work with them, validate your ideas, make sure, you are building whatever you're building, service or a product in a way that can then, be servicing other clients. Very important to remember that. And with that, I guess I would wrap up. I would like to wrap up here. Here's my LinkedIn profile. Feel free to, I guess, visit it and ask me to connect. More than happy to connect with everyone. I'll try to answer some questions when I can. Certainly, just have to keep in mind that I have businesses to run. So if you want to ask something, make sure it doesn't require 3 or 4 rounds of questions. Ask me a question. I'll politely answer if I can and when I can. And but I would love to help others be successful in their careers. And if they want to start a business like I have done, I am a living proof that you don't have a degree. You don't need to have a degree in business or entrepreneurship to actually be able to start and run your own businesses. So thank you for watching, and I'd love to answer some questions now.
Thank you, Igor. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. I'm 100% sure that your presentation is definitely useful for all of the students here. So you see how Igor explained his why, his approach, his what kind of failures you can get, his market research, his customer feedback. So please use this presentation, and somebody will be watching our video that we recorded for making your idea and for making your solution, and we talk about this throughout this subject. Okay. Now I want to challenge you to ask Igor questions. So if you want to ask questions, please raise your hand or write down in chat, and I'll read your question. I'm quite sure you should have some questions.
I can see in the chat people just thinking, but I don't know if they want to use the chat to ask questions or.
Yeah, they can use the chat. Okay, so there's a. Okay, there's one question. I can read it, Igor. So there's a question, Samir. So he thinks that challenging is a saturated market can be a complex and demanding task, but it's impossible. What are your thoughts about that?
Okay, I guess the question is about dealing with markets where there's already a lot of products or solutions as incumbents. Look, I wouldn't say that it's impossible to really change that. I mean, there are many examples of where a market appeared saturated. One such thing is Uber, for example. I know everyone keeps talking about them all the time, but we had taxis. It was a heavily regulated industry. You had taxis at every corner of every street almost. And so somebody then came along and thought about a concept that would be a better user experience. So they started off with a user experience, not with necessarily the current solutions, but they looked at what it could be. And ultimately they did so well. So that's an example of a saturated market where you can still win. In saying that, they also had a lot of resources and money obviously available to them to execute their idea, but it really depends on what it is. I mean, I listened to a guy, a founder of Netflix, not that long ago, and he brought up a very good point. He said, okay, so why do we in 2020, I believe it was, need a screwdriver to open a can of paint and we close it with a hammer? Everyone does that. And so you think about it and go, oh yeah, well, I can solve that problem. I can do like milk bottles. They have a twist on the tops and whatnot. He said many people tried, but what they ultimately found is that the consumers didn't respond to that. They wanted to keep doing what they're doing. So saturated markets sometimes can work both ways. People are so used to be doing something the way they're doing it that they don't want to change. So it's not easy to be giving, I guess, tips on will something work or not. You are going to be the best judge of that.
Okay, thank you, Igor. Thank you so much. So next question is Jan is asking, how do you use social media for a business, or I guess for growing your business?
Yep. So what we do is we use LinkedIn quite a lot because that's a professional network for, I guess, you need to look at who are your customers. Now, that's the number one, and then obviously what sort of services and products do you provide. That will then drive your social media strategy. I mean, if you are dealing with, if you have a consumer product, clearly, you need to engage more on the likes of Facebook, Instagram, TikToks of the world and whatnot. But if you have a B2B, business to business software package that is really aimed at, say, the government or whatever, then LinkedIn for us is where we invest most of our attention and time. So yeah, for us, it's we do have accounts on, I guess, lots of the social media, but LinkedIn is definitely our main one.
All good. Thanks, Igor. Next question, Joshua asked, how do you hire or make this hiring process of great talent as a small business?
That's a very good question, Joshua. In our business, we have very low turnover, which means people that come in stay and for many years usually. So how do we do that? Well, we hire very slow and make sure that when we hire staff or contractors, that they are a good fit to our company. So there's no point in rushing to add people quickly just to fill some vacancy if you know that in a month or 6 months that person will not stay because they have no interest in what you do, or they don't like the type of product that you're creating. So what we do is we make sure that during that early, I guess, interview and engagement process, we explain very clearly what our company is all about, what do we do, and then we try to understand from the applicant's point of view whether that matches, I guess, with their skills and experience and desires. And if there is a match, great. If there isn't a match, we usually don't hire. We look for people who have the skills, we have people who have the experience, but sometimes we'll hire someone who doesn't have the skills, who doesn't have the experience, considering some other, I guess, factors that are brought into the equation. So look, we don't have a set formula, but we have been fairly successful with our hiring and in terms of, I guess, low turnover. So yeah, so those are, I guess, the key elements that I can share.
Thank you, Igor. So I'll because we are getting a lot of questions, we don't have a lot of time. I'll just read 2 more questions that are really interesting, I think, here. So what are the major challenges to starting a business here in Australia? That's the first one, and I'll read one after that as the last one.
Okay, that one is obviously easy to answer. There are no, I guess, challenges to starting a business. You can basically register your business, your domain name, get your tax file number, and do the administrative work very efficiently in Australia. But I guess you need to really know your market and understand whether or not you're selling here or you're selling internationally. That's something to, I guess, consider. So to answer the question, I guess, directly, starting a business, not a problem. Running it and selling, that comes down to your operational needs. And there was one before that, I think, what is the fastest growing business in Australia or around the globe? I really can't answer that, because that's, you can probably go and look on, on the internet about the statistics. I know that in many ways, you have big construction businesses, big IT businesses, big financial businesses. They're all very different, and they grow at different levels depending on what areas you're in. Our business is, a small business, so we are growing, but we are not multi-billion-dollar company.
Okay, and I'll read this as a final question. We will complete here. So, how do you approach an idea that doesn't end up being an app or the Uber of industry?
Yep. Good question again. I don't look for business opportunities as the apps. So if something is just an app, it wouldn't get me too excited. I'm looking for the workflows. I'm looking for the end-to-end process. So I start looking at, what is the user experience? What is the customer experience that's needed here? And the app might be part of it, but it's usually not the full solution. An app is just maybe 20, 30, 50% sometimes. So you really need to have that full picture, holistic picture, before you go, okay, this is a great idea.
Okay, we will finish here. Thank you, Igor. Thank you so much for your presentation. Hope you enjoyed, because I'm getting a lot of questions. We have a lot of students and Igor is busy, and then this lecture will go to 2 hours. Thank you so much. I'll also ask all students to watch your lecture again, because we recorded your lecture. Thank you for your presentation, and hope we will other students will have opportunity to engage with you somehow in the future.
Thank you for the opportunity, and I wish good grades, good marks to everyone, and the best of luck with your careers. Thanks all.
Thank you.